The students in my second grade class are very active students. They need to be doing something all the time. In order to maximize learning and retention for the student, my partnership teacher and I decided to get students active in their learning. We did this by giving them hands-on activities. In our weather unit, they became meteorologists. They learned about weather through interactive websites and making weather instruments. The class loved the sorting tasks we completed on various weather pictures. It was wonderful to hear their reasoning on why certain pictures were placed together. The unit ended with the class making their own weather instruments. After placing the weather instruments outside, the class turned into meteorologists for the week and recorded and reported their findings. The students were surprised on the last day of the weather unit with an activity with clouds. We created clouds out of shaving cream. Then the students were able to get creative and make different shapes in their shaving cream clouds. The unit stuck with the students. On a recent field trip to Sturgeon City in Jacksonville, my students were able to recall the names and functions of weather instruments when asked by the guide, impressing her at the same time. Hands-on learning was not limited to science. We also used these activities in math. The students used base 10 blocks to learn place values and counters and dice and even M&Ms sometimes to help with grouping. Just like my students, when I was able to get my hands on something, whether in science experiments or activities in LIC 536, or solving and explaining math concepts with manipulatives in LIC 522, I remembered the lessons being taught. But it was not just hands-on activities that my students thrived on. It was the need to play games. My students loved being creative with games. Creative learning was incorporated into my classroom in many ways. In LIC 519, with the Student Voice Project, I learned that my students love to learn through games. My partnership teacher and I started incorporating more games into the lesson. The students did not like to sit at a desk for very long. They liked to be active. Because of this dynamic in the classroom, we did very little whole group. Many times it was small group rotations with a mini lesson at my rotation. This concept was new to me. I was taught in whole group settings, and my subbing experiences has been in whole group settings. We integrated small group rotations with one rotation always being a game. I was able to incorporate games like the odd and even finger shoot, played like rock, paper, and scissors, or math soccer ball for our math rotations. The students loved getting up and moving to the compass shuffle when learning cardinal directions in social studies. The teaching of the lessons that focus on the creative side of learning instead of sitting at their desk had the greatest impact on my students and their retention of the lessons taught. While my classroom was not games the entire time, the students also loved the use of technology during rotations. From day one, my partnership teacher and I started teaching students how to log on their computers. Once they mastered the logging in independently, my students loved to go on to RazKids, ScoopPad, and Zearn for math. My ESL students were able to excel at reading at a much faster pace by using reading eggs when not doing small group rotations with me. The use of technology was intimidating to me at first. While in LIC 501, we learned about various websites that could be used in the classroom. At the time, it was overwhelming, but when I started to use them in the classroom, I soon realized how helpful they could be. My students and I created documents in Wordle for most of our lessons. At the conclusion of the lesson or unit, we would type in key words or concepts that they remembered from the unit. The students loved to see where their word ended up in the collage. I also used KWL charts when starting a lesson as a way to assess the students' knowledge prior to starting the unit. My students also loved to create T-charts, which we did at the beginning of all daily 5 rotations, and posted it around the room so students knew exactly what to do. In planning my units, I tried to start with a book to introduce the concept to my students. My class liked to sit on the floor in front of the chair and be read a book, just as Dr. Zinner did in our social studies class. While reading the books, the students would start to think about the concept and apply it to everyday life. For example, when reading Me on the Map, the students started to make connections to their life in their homes, town, state, and country. While planning the lessons, I had to create 3 different levels of instruction for my students that would challenge all of them. In the beginning, I doubted myself and my ability to plan for every single student. I wondered if I was too hard or too easy on them. After getting to know my students by talking with them and interacting with them in the classroom and the playground, I was able to get a better grasp of where they stood academically. I became more confident in my ability to plan for different learners. I started using more resources to help me do this, such as the EC teacher, the ESL teacher, and the advanced academics teacher. My groups would change with each new subject taught. This was nice in the fact that students could not figure out which group was the high, medium, or low group. I was able to get the most out of my students while working with them in small groups. When walking into my classroom, there was a lot of students working in small groups, problem solving together, playing games, and using technology. There still was some teacher-led basic instruction for the students as a whole class. The students were taught in a traditional sense that I was used to. Although they loved the interaction with the other students and movement around the classroom, they did well with seat work. In the beginning of the semester, I found myself making promises to them that they could play games when we were finished with our work. The deals were being made less and less as the semester went on. The students were able to do seat work quietly before moving on to the games in rotation. To ensure the good behavior continued outside the classroom, I instituted a mystery walker. They would watch the student in the hallways and during transitions to ensure they were behaving. At the end of the day, the mystery walker would earn a prize. The students learned that there was a time and a place to interact with each other, and the hallways were not one of them. After students learned that my husband was in the Marines, our class line looked like a troop marching down the hallway. They loved to stand at attention while waiting in line. A few were relieved when I would say "at ease" and they could relax. Through all my experiences in my internship, I have become a more confident teacher. I now know I can be successful at teaching every single student and have it have meaning to them.
It was an early morning yesterday. I was up before the dawn, and I really have enjoyed my stay, but I must be moving on.